There's this golden age that's being promised. It's under this evangelical ideology that Trump has promised from his last term and as recently as 2024, right before he got elected again, that he's going to put evangelicals all throughout the American government. Now, people will say, well, he's come out against Project 2025. But like Jesus says, you will know them not by what they say necessarily, but what they do. And so I think one of the things we can keep an eye out for in 2025 is what does he actually implement from this Project 2025 document? Because he can say he's against it to make sure people don't not vote for him. Now that he's in office, he can kind of do whatever he wants, and you're not going to kick him out before his term's done. So you are left with essentially, we need to watch out for what aspects of the Project 2025 Trump is going to implement, because you can guarantee that the evangelicals around him have been made major promises around some of the things found in the document. Now, there's 900 pages, but through it, I think there's some key things that we can just cut some of the noise out and see what they might do for this upcoming year. So the first point is, as we talked about, a massive effort to Christianize the government. So first thing we should see is, do we see more of that Christianization of the government? Faith advisors placed in certain places and so on.
My name is Jared Hudson. I'm a Christian conservative, and I'm asking you for the two most important things you can give. One, your prayers, and two, your vote on May 19th.
Hi, I'm Mark David Hall, a professor in the Robertson School of Government at Regent University. Let me begin by observing that a lot of nonsense has been written about the faith of America's founders. Scholars and popular authors alike routinely assert that they were Enlightenment deists who desired to strictly separate church and state. Nothing could be further from the truth.
In this particular document, they did identify the Sabbath, and we're actually going to look at the places where it says identifies Sabbath as Sunday. It identifies that the woke atheistic culture is the enemy, again, kind of establishing that accounting for atheism is not spiritualizing prophecy away, that it is a tangible, real enemy that the false prophet is using to fight, to get church and state closer to being united. And that the document itself and the organization that put it together primarily was run by the Knights of Malta, as I've covered in previous episodes, and I'm going to finish up on the next episode with that. So one of the things I want people to take in as a reality of what they're dealing with when I make statements like, the Knights of Malta are running organizations like this, is that it's being said with actual proof. Like there's lists you can find online, verified lists of Knights of Malta. Some of these individuals wrote in biographies and in their letters about being parts of the Knights of Malta, but that this group is most often associated with the intelligence community. And here's just like a list. In fact, let's take people full screen here so they can see it. This is a list of major verifiable Knights of Malta. And one of the things you notice is that they are almost all in positions of intelligence. So you have George Bush Sr., who was the director of the CIA, Alan Dulles, director of the CIA, William Casey, director of the CIA, and so on and so forth. I could keep going down. Francis Spellman, which Archbishop, he was a very powerful Archbishop of New York. Rupert Murdoch, most people will know from News Corporation and his massive news and media holdings. And so, Reinhard Gehlen is one of the most misunderstood and known names in this whole looking at who's running the world behind the scenes and why. Gehlen was an SS officer for the Nazis and was actually one of the original founders of the Mossad, the Israeli intelligence arm. And it goes to show that Rome, and it's something that I'm sure we'll talk about in the future, that Rome is going to play a part in all the intelligence agencies around the world. So when people think that there are powers, against each other, unfortunately, that's just the evidence shows that almost every intelligence agency was founded and started in some connection to the Knights of Malta and the Catholic Church. So you just kind of find yourself asking, is this a coincidence or not? And then people will say oh, is there just a group of men around the world plotting these evil, machinations and what they're going to do? And quite seriously, the answer is yes. If you look at that Knight of Malta table and you were to pull out every name of every person sitting at that table and what they discussed, what you would find is that is some of the most powerful people in the world. They own some of the largest organizations that you've never even heard of that are behind the scenes of name brands and things that people know. And what you're left with is, yes, a group of people loyal to the Vatican to the death, because that's what knights are. They're Vatican loyal knights that are implemented to have strategic hands in almost everything, and the intelligence community is one of those things. And I think for people who don't take that seriously, you're going to have trouble making progress until you just realize, like, this is what the Bible's pointing to on how the world operates. This is the Roman mechanism at play in reality.
Yeah, and I think, too, people become very skeptical because they just think of it as a human-run operation, and it is far more than that. It is actually a supernatural operation.
Exactly.
So when you take into account that you have a very powerful being with a third of the angels that fell from heaven that are actually behind the scenes in this entire thing, you can understand how this could be threaded through so much of human history and have such, foresight to plan, centuries ahead. It's because it's supernatural. And it's on the backs of humans, as it was in that from the closing ceremony of the 33rd Olympic Games. You see that it's the humans that are involved in doing this, but it's a confederacy that is really run by supernatural forces.
And these being knights, as I kind of pointed out in the Trump episode that I kind of started, where we're going to look further at Trump and show that a lot of the people that he has appointed as appointees for his new cabinet are Vatican loyalists and have knights connections as well to the Knights Templar and to the Knights of the Order of Jerusalem. So this is a very real aspect of our reality that I hope more people can take seriously, because it comes out in the form of when we see things like Project 2025, we have to know where the Heritage Foundation came from. This is the guy who started it, Edwin Feulner. He's an open Knight of Malta. That's not a secret for him. These guys are actually proud of it. I mean, the current head, he's a Canadian lawyer in Ottawa, and I showed him last time. I think his last name's Dunlap. But like, they're not. If you go up and ask him if he's a Knight of Malta, he's going to say yes. So people are like, well, how do you know? Well, you can find out because some of them are secret. They don't want everybody to know each person, but some of them are open. Some of those CIA directors, Alan Dulles and so forth, Casey, they were well-known Knights of Malta. So he also has his fingers in a lot of weird other circles. People don't really know of groups like Le Circle. It's actually a secret society, kind of like the Bilderbergs, that up until recently, like the Bilderbergs was secret, and now everyone kind of pays attention to it. But there's a number of organizations like that, which are basically like the people who are invited to those meetings. They go into small, wealthy enclaves and have discussions about these things. And so Feulner was not just on the Heritage Foundation. He was a trustee on the Monte-Perelin Society, Le Circle he was a part of, the Institute for European Defense and Strategic Studies. He's a Bohemian Grove member. So I guess the point that I'm trying to make is when you see these guys sitting at tables like this, they're part of a whole network of like think tanks that produce more public policy and more social movement information and like strategy than I would say the average person has even any clue about. But when you know and understand these things, you can start to pull back like the surface level stuff. You see Project 2025, but hopefully now we can see under the hood a little bit and see that this is just the mother and the daughters, the mother being the papacy and the daughters being the harlot churches, kind of coming together under the mother still. Like the person that put all this together, Edwin Feulner and all the other people that are on this table like him, they're the ones kind of moving the pieces. So anybody who thinks anybody's above the Roman entity, it's just not true. And that's enforced by the fact that we have Daniel 2 and 7 and 8 and Revelation 13 and 12. And we could go down the laundry list of all the places where the papacy is pointed out as the main power for our time.